With the release of Ghost Recon Project over set to release in 2025 to 2026, I can't help but speculate if we will get our value for money with another open-world game. In my opinion, Ghost Recon Wildlands and Breakpoint should be tactical sandbox games rather than being an open-world game, giving us the player freedom and flexibility to play the game in our own way, being able to add mods, create maps, create missions, and best of all, to share these things within the community. Knowing that Ghost Recon Project Over is most likely going to be an open-world game, this makes me question the value for money for us customers. With the up-and-coming release of Star Wars Outlaws having a set price from $70 to $130, it's personally making me doubt that Ubisoft will deliver in the next Ghost Recon game in the franchise. If the next game is likely to be open world, how many hours will the main storyline and side missions be? Will the world design invite hours of raiding enemy compounds? Or will it get boring quickly? Will the game have enough content on day one to satisfy us customers? Will Ghost Recon Project Over be another open world game? Or will we finally get to see sandbox elements from the previous games return back into the franchise? I think these are important questions to speculate, especially when you pay close attention to Ubisoft's behavior as of late. In my last video essay, Is Ghost Recon Project Over Wildlands 2? Plus first-person discussion, I compared Far Cry 5 with Ghost Recon Wildlands, discussing what made Far Cry 5 a better success than Wildlands and Breakpoint. But after repurchasing Far Cry 5 recently, I originally had it on PS4 a few years ago, and now I repurchased it on PC. It's clear to me why Far Cry 5 is a better financial success than Wildlands and Breakpoint again. Do you have an idea of what that might be? In my opinion, it's not because Far Cry 5 has better gameplay or a better storyline, but it comes down to this one thing: value for money. Far Cry 5 gives you value for money, not merely being an open-world game, but being a sandbox and one of the best sandbox arcade shooters there is. To my frustration, when I asked the Ghost Recon community if they want Ghost Recon to return to being a sandbox or to remain an open-world game, the answers do vary, but there is a large percentage of the community that come from the Wildlands and Breakpoint crowd that are happy with the franchise staying an open-world game. Now, let me break down the differences between a sandbox game and an open-world game, because there are many misconceptions as to what they are and what they are not. Let's take a definition straight from this article. Sandbox games offer limitless creativity and player freedom, allowing gamers to shape their experiences. Open-world games provide rich narratives within expansive, immersive environments, blending freedom with structured objectives. Personal gaming preferences often determine which genre resonates more with players. A sandbox game will invite you with modes and modding support to shape, alter, modify, edit all aspects of the game, or at least some aspects, enabling you to shape your own experience. In an open-world game, you might have the freedom and exploration aspects to approach each objective, but each objective and the storyline is fixed. You can't decide to complete a certain type of mission in a certain area. You are fixed to complete that mission the way the game developer has created the game. Let's look at Far Cry 5 as a sandbox game. It has a mission and map editor where you can create maps and missions, share them with the community, enabling you to create unique experiences, which in my opinion is the reason why Far Cry 5 has been very popular, selling more copies than Wildlands and Breakpoint. Even some of the most popular open-world games, such as Grand Theft Auto 5, enables modding support in its single-player open world as well as on its online mode, which actually makes it a sandbox game. So sandbox games can have open worlds or semi-open worlds, depending on the developer, allowing mods or modes where you can create or edit aspects of the game. For some reason which is beyond me, Ubisoft negates Ghost Recon from being a sandbox tactical shooter like it was from Ghost Recon 1 to Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter 2, to only being an open-world game. Let's look at a few comments that I had from the community on Reddit from a post I made, and then I'll go over 3 things I made a post on Reddit about 3 months ago, but there was some interesting conversations from the community. The post I made was, what does the Ghost Recon community really want? The Ghost community is divided. We're close to getting the next game in the franchise, but I think the Ghost Recon community is divided on many issues and we're split in what we want for the next game. Please let me know out of the following options and in your own words what you would like the next game to be. Open world with NPCs and environment that makes the game feel alive, with storyline and side missions. Replayability once the game is finished. Gameplay is a combination between Wildlands and Breakpoint. Tactical sandbox like Ghost Recon 1. Missions in different smaller open maps. Select from a roster of soldiers. Plan missions before infill and plan exfil. Gameplay is closer to Arma 3, Ghost Recon 1 and GRAW than Wildlands and Breakpoint. Game is more realistic. Linear maps like Future Soldier. Storyline but no side missions. I would select option 2 because my focus of Ghost Recon is to approach missions and to have tactical flexibility to play the game however I want it. That's why I play Arma 3. One of the responses I had said, I'm torn between 1 and 2 because I loved Wildlands and the story and objective of the game. It was more of a traditional Special Forces / Green Beret type mission. Drop dudes in a country with a vague objective of regime change. Go get it done with autonomy. Obviously they have to write some gameplay elements in to keep the direction moving forward. Meanwhile, I also love 2 for a more structured mission set, where it's a series of high-risk focused objectives and focused missions. I think the relatability without some sort of robust and unique online multiplayer would be low with this versus the chaos that can be brought with open world, but again, I do enjoy the structure the first time or 2 around. A combination of both would be awesome and excellent, like when they introduced Sam Fisher into Wildlands, or even the Terminator storyline in Breakpoint. While absolutely ridiculous, it was fun. Whichever way they go, I just hope they really focus on quality of gameplay and the one thing that brings everyone back to GR, which is an incredible storyline. Sofrate, thanks for your comment, bud. Now let's take a look at another comment from Mr. Tripp. I prefer a combination of all 3. Ubi most likely will keep an open world, and I do think an open world GR game can work, but Ubi has to put missions first and survival and exploration second. I'd like to plan missions, intel gathering, gear selection, infill/exfil options, and AI piloted vehicle selection. The whole shebang. Better squad mechanics and specific individual orders. Longer render distance for longer ranged engagements. Still have that GR military theme closer to GRFS, tech-heavy Ghost Squad versus a superior force in numbers. No optic camo, but a working camo index for sure. A better squad dynamic and character personalities like GRFS. My response would be, why not? Why not give us, the player, more options as a customer? Thanks for the comment, Trip. Now the next comment is more in line with my point of view, so I was happy to see someone from the Ghost Recon community on Reddit share my opinion. Shout out to Greenslayer777. He said, I played Sniper Elite 4 and I really enjoyed it. I think that it really strikes a good balance between a cohesively tight experience vs player freedom. I would love to see Ghost Recon make a game like this with lots of weapons and customizations to play with in a variety of actual missions, because while I did enjoy Bolivia for the most part, it was largely just busy work of doing the same handful of things over and over again. And I hated Aurora for being lifeless and Sammy throughout the whole game. The main missions were just a series of go to point A and kill everyone, go to point B and kill everyone, go to point C and kill everyone. Rinse and repeat. I responded, I can get behind this 100%. And for some of us that feel like open world games can waste our time at times, I really prefer the structure because you're focused on the mission and not pointless traveling around a map. And last comment from Green. Exactly. The open world of Aurora felt more like an obligatory trope than a necessary design choice. As always, appreciate your thoughts, Green. Kamani Mozart dropped in the comments and said, 3 is a no-go. We are past this type of gameplay IMO for video games, and GR needs more than Future Soldier gameplay at this point to succeed in this market. Leave those types of games for indie devs making ground branch and ready or not type of games. People want replayability in fun open world type environments. I think a mix of 1 and 2 can work well. Smaller yet dense sandbox areas that can take you through part of the campaign until you move to the next area. Or Ubisoft has to stop making such huge empty open worlds where there isn't much going on outside of enemy compounds. It's a tough dilemma. Although I class games like Ground Branch and Ready or Not as sandbox games, I see G's point. But we have to remember that The Division is both open world and linear and does these things very, very well. The Division franchise, in my opinion, is in a healthier place than the Ghost Recon community. Thanks for the comment, G. Lastly, this last point highlights a few things I want to talk about in the next section of this video, and this comment comes from Swaggily. He says, I would prefer a tactical sandbox, maybe a semi-open world like Jedi Survivor, although I do enjoy the freedom the open world brings. It essentially provides tons of content for different scenarios. Whatever they choose, I just want the experience to be ultra-realistic and tactical. The immersive options were a great step, but other things need to be included too. I would go even as far as adding an option to slow down animations and movement speed. I really want the weapon ballistics to be realistic in the next game. I can't stand the slow bullet velocity and drop. I don't want to be playing paintball. Also, they need to up the weapon audio and feedback while being shot. Wildlands is near unplayable for me because you can't even hear gunshots from enemies. I play on controller, and half the time the controller does not vibrate when getting shot. Because we are ghosts, it would be cool to have a FOB or hub where you exfil to and support assets live there can help you while out on missions. I think it would make sense to give the player tons of options for infill and exfil, like how actual SF missions go. I'm not a huge fan of pretending that the ghosts are living in the wild and camping while trying to survive. Some of those survival elements are cool, but just don't make a ton of sense when it all comes down to it. Now, to wrap this all up, one thing I can conclude from these comments in the video and most of the comments from the Reddit post, and I do know the Reddit community don't represent the whole Ghost Recon community, is that despite whether they want Ghost Recon Project over to be an open world or tactical sandbox, they do want more features and aspects to the game with a little more detail added into the game. There were a few random comments just asking for an open world, and I can only say each to their own. But what I'm emphasizing here is what will give us Ghost Recon customers more value for money. I don't know about many of you, but this will be my first time anticipating a release of a Ghost Recon game, and this means that I would be paying full price for the game when it comes out. I brought a PS4 way after the games were released, and I casually played the older games randomly as a kid. But this will be my first time waiting for the release of a new Ghost game. In today's terms, this means that the next game will be at full price around £70 to £100 maybe, or for our American audience, I believe that would be about the same $60 to $100. Seeing the latest Ubiflop mess with Star Wars Outlaws, we might expect a Ghost Recon Project overpriced at $130. From the latest leak from Insider Gaming, it said that the plot of the game evolves around the ghosts. Your team, infiltrating the war zone to carry out secret missions and to locate a traitor. This is very likely to be an open world. The article refers it to a war zone. In the ideal world, what I would like to see from the next game to justify paying £70 to £130 is the following, and bearing in my mind, this would be my realistic expectation because I know Ubisoft wouldn't make Ghost Recon a sandbox because it would lose money on microtransactions. I would like to see at least 1. I expect the game to be open world with a storyline and side missions. But I would like to see a mode where we can select certain type of missions within a specified area throughout the map, or to increase the amount of NPC enemies for main and side missions. 2. I want to see Ghost Recon adopt the same sandbox elements like Far Cry 5. I want to see Ghost Recon have its own arcade mode where you can create maps, missions on your created maps, and have a platform to share your creation. 3. I would like to see not only an adoption of a Ghost Recon type of arcade mode, but I would to see it tailored to the military tactical elements which would enhance playing as Ghost operators. It would be great to have modding support, even if it's within a Ubisoft modding platform, to add elements to the open world map. Ghost Recon Project Over is very likely to only be an open world game, and I'm expecting that. But what is Ubisoft going to provide to us Ghosts to justify paying the game at full price of $70 to $130? An open world with side missions like the 100 of Ubisoft games, a reskin of Farcry, a reskin of Breakpoint, but to make it look more Central Asian? I'm expecting a massive disappointment, and to be honest, I have a catalog of tactical shooters that would make me more satisfied in content playing at the time of this game's release. I might wait a year or two for the game to have more DLC content, purchasing the game at a lower price. If the game goes on sale around £40 with DLCs released by then, it might be worth the purchase. But what do you Ghosts think about this topic? What can Ubisoft do to warrant you purchasing the next Ghost Recon game at a full price of $70 to $130? If an open world and side missions are more than enough for you, I'm honestly glad. But I think we need to hold these game studios accountable or not buy their games altogether. Eagle Eyes out.